Stage Advice. I am Greg Tito, and I'm joined by Mr. Jeremy Crawford.
Hello, everyone.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Rocking and rolling on this Friday afternoon?
I am working on several different secret D&D projects.
Oh, those are the best.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
best
Well,
secret D&D projects
we,
ever.
we continue to be in that window of time where we're working on a bunch of things, none of which we've announced.
Exactly.
So we get to feel like super spies.
Don't tell anyone. But what we can tell you about on this segment where we dive into the rules, common rules questions about Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, as well as the thinking behind those rules. And today's topic, where we can delve into, is bonus action and the timing thereof.
Yeah, I think in the past we've talked about bonus actions on this show, but I wanted us to dig a little deeper into the specific timing of everyone's favorite little something extra on their turn in combat, the bonus action.
Yeah, and it's important because I think when so much about D&D is about like that combat round, right? There's just all these weird corner cases that can sometimes pop up and are not covered by the general understanding.
Right.
'Cause it's a very simple kind of idea. You have an action, you have a move, and then sometimes you have a bonus.
Yes, and so anyone listening who doesn't know what a bonus action is, it is, as the name implies, it's a extra action you get beyond the regular one. And the thing that's really important to always remember about a bonus action is you don't have one until something in the game tells you you do. This is sometimes a little confusing for people who come to 5th edition from previous editions of the game where you might have had like a standard action on your turn, a swift action or a minor action, a move action, etc. Whereas in 5th, you just have an action, you just have a move. And then sometimes a thing will come along and say, hey, you get to do something extra special on this round. Now, many characters in the game don't have any bonus actions at all. Yeah. So you can just take your turn, move, action, and you're done.
Right.
And that was very much an intentional part of the design because playtest feedback told us over and over and over again in the D&D Next process, people want combat to go as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And so we didn't want every round people thinking, well, did I do something with my minor action, with my move action, with my standard action? We wanted just like, you move, you do something.
Yeah.
The end. Or you do something and you move. Or you move a little bit, you do something, and then you move some more, because also we gave you total flexibility by being able to break your movement up throughout your turn.
I've definitely played with players from previous editions who would do their main thing and then ask the table, be like, oh, is there anything I can do with my minor or other things? And then you're right, that would just slow down combat so much. And because they were so prevalent in the character builds that people would be playing, if you didn't perform a minor action, sometimes you felt like you were penalized,
right,
by doing that. So I love that 5th edition streamlined that so that it really is a bonus action. You don't necessarily get anything, and you don't have to constantly think each round, am I doing something with my bonus action?
Right. Now, there is a class, and I think really this class, in a way, is the poster child of the bonus action, and that is the rogue. Mm-hmm. The rogue is the class who has the bonus action built into it in a really important way, and that comes in at second level with the feature Cunning Action. As soon as a rogue gets Cunning Action, every single round in combat, they get a bonus action. And it's also important for people who might be fuzzy on how bonus actions work, that if you do get one, you can only take one on your own turn. This is distinct from, say, a reaction, which you can take any time in a round, whether it's your turn or not, as long as the trigger for the reaction is satisfied. Bonus actions only can be taken on your own turn.
Right.
So once the rogue gets it, rogues get to use that bonus action to take the dash action, the disengage action, or the hide action. Each of those actions normally gobble up your entire action, but the rogue can take one of those three actions with their bonus action, leaving then their grown-up action to do something else, which could even be the exact same thing. Like sometimes a rogue will move and then with cunning action, dash, and then with the regular action, dash again. So rogues, can be very tricksy, very flexible, and that was a key part of the design that we were going for with the rogue. Now, this gets to the question of timing.
Yeah.
When on the rogue's turn can they take their cunning action? The bonus action rules give us an answer, and that is, if a bonus action doesn't have a specific timing built into it, you can take it any time you want on your turn.
So before the move, after the move, before your attack, for example, or after your attack, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. You decide. And so the rogue's cunning action ability doesn't provide any timing at all in it. It just says, on your turn, you get to take a bonus action, meaning the rogue player gets to decide when this bonus action occurs on their turn. Now, here I'll give an example, though, where timing is specified. And so for that, I'm going to flip in my player's handbook to the description of the monk. Because sometimes, and I want to bring up some examples, because sometimes I get asked, well, what's an example of timing? You know, when does a bonus action tell me when I need to take it? All right. Here's an example in the monk. First, actually, of one that's just like the rogue, and that is Step of the Wind. You can spend 1 key point to take the disengage or dash action as a bonus action on your turn. Just like cunning action, the monk player can decide whenever they want on their turn to use Step of the Wind. But here is an example of timing that is specific. Flurry of blows. Immediately after you take the attack action on your turn, you can spend 1 key point to make 2 unarmed strikes as a bonus action. Here, the timing is very clear. It has to be immediately after you take the attack action. And that doesn't mean you can sort of say, well, I intend to take the attack action this turn. Could I maybe do these before? No, it's very clear. Immediately after.
Right.
And also, that word immediately here is also important, because what that means is you can't take the attack action, maybe do some other things in there.
Yeah, you can't move, for example.
Right, and then you have your bonus action. No, immediately after that attack, you can flurry.
And thematically, it is boom, 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 boom. Like you're supposed to be like, you have a volume of attacks that you can certainly do, and it must be all at once, though. It can't be split up.
Right. Yep. And suddenly it is this blur of fists, Bruce Lee style.
Yes.
Now, there is also a bonus action hanging out in the rules that anyone can try to use as long as you are wielding 2 weapons, and each of those weapons has the light property. That gives you access to the 2-weapon fighting bonus action that is in the game's combat rules. So, there it says, when you take the attack action and attack with a light melee weapon that you're holding in one hand, you can use a bonus action to attack with a different light melee weapon that you're holding in the other hand. Some people will sometimes read this and think, is there timing? There is. Because it says, when you take the attack action and attack with a light melee weapon that you're holding. In other words, that use of the attack action has to happen before that bonus action occurs.
Oh, okay.
Because, again, our game, and this was something I mentioned actually earlier in the week on Dragon Plus, our game doesn't have a sort of a phase in combat where you declare what your intent is going to be. Our rules care about what actually happens in combat, not what you hope is going to happen. And the reason why that's important in our system is at any moment in combat, you could be interrupted. Because our system has reactions, and many of our monsters have reactions, a monster could suddenly do something that deprives you of your ability to take actions, meaning you never even take this attack action that is a precondition for this bonus action that you're about to take.
Right.
So even when you see something like when you take the attack action, that is much a statement of timing as the far more precise one we saw in Flurry of Blows, where it says immediately after. Now, the difference here is you notice two-weapon fighting doesn't say it has to be immediately after that first attack. What this means is simply you need to take the attack action on your turn using one of the weapons. Then, at any point thereafter on your turn, you can take this other bonus action. So there you do have a little bit of flexibility. Once that precondition is met, then from then till the end of your turn, you can drop in the bonus action.
That's interesting because I don't think a lot of players who use two-weapon fighting really take advantage of that. Because it is perfect for positioning and all that, especially even after, say, defeating one monster with the first attack and then being able to move to advance on another one and use your second attack. But that makes it even easier, you know?
Exactly. And that flexibility is intentional so that you can fell one of the goblins, and then maybe if you have movement left, get over to that other one and take them out too.
Exactly. So yeah, I love that you're taking away and giving advantages as well with this conversation.
Right. And again, everyone should keep in mind the idea is you have control about bonus action timing entirely on your turn, except for the specific ways a rule might limit it. And I say that just to drive home that people shouldn't add extra limits. Like the two-weapon fighting rule doesn't say that second attack must be immediately after the first one. Because it doesn't say it has to be, it doesn't have to be. It just needs to be sometime after. And our rules are generally very lenient until that very moment when they're not.
Right.
And again, it's important for DMs and players to not imagine extra restrictions there that are not actually in the rules.
And I think that's a common theme in how you respond to folks on Twitter when they're asking questions like that, where you're like, yes, and it is said so exactly at this point, or like, these are the words, when the words come together in this way, this is what they mean.
Right.
And this is a perfect example where it's like, just listen and comprehend, if you can, how the care and energy that you guys put to make sure that a lot of these cases could be adjudicated.
Right.
By what's written, as is not what you imagine is the rule.
Right. And often I will get asked sometimes, not only about the timing of a bonus action, but many other things in the rule. People will ask me, is it this way for balance reasons? Now, that's always kind of a loaded question, partly because almost everyone means something different when they say the word balance.
Right.
In game design, there is not actually a universally shared definition for what balance means. What balance means can change from game to game, depending on, is it a game that has symmetrical balance versus asymmetrical balance? Are we talking about people having equal opportunities to shine? Are we talking about people having identical damage output? Are we talking about comparing resilience?
Or trying to remove specific combinations of rules that could be advantageous? Like a lot of people think that's what balance means.
Right. And so that's why it's often difficult for me to answer questions about balance without first understanding what the questioner means by the word balance. But going back to this topic, I do get asked sometimes, is the timing of bonus actions in the rules, is it all there for balance reasons? And I think usually when I'm asked that question, I'm being asked, well, if I as a DM lifted the restriction, am I going to break the game? I can't give a general answer to that because the specific timing we give, our reasons for doing that timing are different for every single bonus action feature. What I can say is a common theme in our timing decisions, not only with bonus actions, but also things like reactions, is to make the play experience as smooth as possible. We want to make it so that it's clear when you can do a thing and then make that thing resolve quickly and get it off stage as quickly as possible. And so sometimes we will make decisions mostly motivated by keeping the game moving more than we're worried about somebody doing too much damage or, having too many hit points or too high of an AC. Often it's much more, we don't want this game to get completely bogged down by all of these different sort of if-then statements coming in from the rules and you having to process, well, which of these conditional things happens first. We like it to be very straightforward. And it's why we limit things like bonus actions to only one on your turn, why we limit reactions to, once you take one, you can't take another one until the start of your next turn.
Because otherwise they would chain and chain and chain
until and things just
would slow down.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that, in some ways, the pace of the game being a goal, having a character do a massive amount of damage increases the pace because then the fight is now done and you can move on to a different challenge.
Right. Now, people who value high damage output, and I say that because it's important to remember that different players value different things about their characters. True. Some people value their character having high survivability far more than they value dealing a lot of damage. Still, other players value way more the ability to help their friends, whether it's through healing or buffing or just making them laugh, than they ever value how much damage do they deal or how much damage can they take. And now I completely lost where I was going with that.
Well, let me ask you a question. It might derail you even further, but get to spellcasting.
Yes.
So bonus actions, I think, are a big part of the reason why some spells have more versatility and usefulness in combat versus others. So I'm thinking of Healing Word, for example.
Right.
Is one of my favorite healing spell because you can do that while still performing your main action for the round.
And bonus action spells are a great example of bonus actions in the game where you get to decide when it happens on your turn because there's no timing specified. It's just, hey, you can cast the spell as a bonus action. It means any time on your turn you can unleash its magic. And it is also, it's something extra.
Yeah.
And that is the advantage of something like Healing Word, as you said, because Cure Wounds, which gobbles up your whole action, is a more potent healing spell, but Healing Word doesn't take your whole action. Exactly. So when you really desperately need to do more than one thing on your turn, that bonus action spell is particularly valuable. Now, as a side note, one of the rules that often trips people up is the rule on bonus action spells that if you cast one on your turn, you can't cast any other spells unless the other spells are cantrip with a casting time of one action. Mm-hmm. I get asked, in fact, even today on Twitter I got asked, why does that rule exist and why does it pertain only to bonus action spells? That was something we put into the game fairly late in the development, honestly because we were afraid of, with the introduction of bonus action spells, too much complexity piling up on a spellcaster's turn. And we wanted to make it that if you were doing that something extra with spell casting, because spells tend to be the most complex things in the game, we didn't want you to then, I cast this bonus action spell that might be a little complex, and then I bring in this full action spell.
It's also complex.
That's, a 6th level full action spell that's like, crazy complicated, and everyone gets to watch me take my turn for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So that rule largely exists to keep the game moving. And it was a way for us to future-proof because we didn't know in future books, what we might decide to design and assign, when we got to that spell's casting time, assign bonus action to it. We just wanted to make it like whatever we designed for the life of this edition, if you cast a bonus action spell, the only other spell that you could cast on your turn is a cantrip, to just keep things simple, keep things straightforward.
But because this is an exception-based game, though, too, that also, the rules in place allows you to, and I'm not saying you should or would do this, but, say a spell could be written that breaks that rule, that says this spell you were able to cast both a bonus action spell and a main action spell, and then that would increase the value of that spell.
Oh,
sure. For a versatile spellcaster.
Or we could build something like that into a class feature.
Right.
That is the beauty of an exceptions-based game, is that we always have the liberty of breaking our own rules.
Yeah, exactly. And then hopefully that would be something that would not be done all the time.
Right.
But it would be a special moment that could allow that spellcaster to channel. I'm thinking of almost like a Doctor Strange type level of thing where he's doing this, but he's also doing this at the same time. And you would want to make that feel really special. But it would only feel special if you had that rule in place.
Right. And here's the thing, thankfully, even with the bonus action rule in place, I often see sorcerers in particular in play feeling special when, they use the Quicken spell meta magic option to turn something into a bonus action spell.
Right.
And again, just that feeling of that something extra. I've often seen sorcerer players, their eyes sort of glimmering as they figured out this awesome combo on their own turn because they used Quicken spell and they turned one of their spells into a bonus action spell. So it
also dealing lots of damage with their cantrip spell
yes.
on that same turn.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because it is also easy to forget just how juicy many cantrips are, especially as you get up to higher levels.
Yeah.
Some of them can be really significant in terms of the amount of damage they deal. Some of them also have, at every level, amazing utility. A spell like Mage Hand never goes out of style. And I probably have seen more story pivotal things done with spells like Mage Hand than I have with any particular damage spell.
And Minor Illusion
yes.
as well.
Yeah, where people figure out wonderfully clever things to do with their utility magic.
Exactly. So is there any, a guiding light you can give to folks who have questions about bonus actions and how they can use and comment? Like, is there like a rule of thumb you kind of always use as a dungeon master that allows just the pace of the game to progress?
Yeah, I think the main one when it comes to timing is just remember, if a bonus action says nothing at all about something else that must occur, it doesn't say anything about this one thing happens immediately after another. If it just says, hey, you have this bonus action and you can take it on your turn, the player gets to decide when that happens. Mm-hmm. Or the DM gets to decide if it's a monster with a bonus action.
Right.
But a little behind the scenes thing, we rarely give monsters bonus actions, and that's on purpose because the DM already has plenty to manage. And we have found that often if we put a bonus action in a monster, the DM forgets it's there. Mm-hmm. And then it turns into a little bit of feel-bad design where maybe after the session, the DM glances at the stat block and realizes, oh, goodness, this creature had this bonus action they could have been using every round, and I forgot to have them do it.
And it also adds more weight, I suppose, to the creatures that have lair actions and other such things, basically giving them their own bonus action, but it's something that is more thematic and tells the story. Like they're that much more powerful when they're in their home turf.
Exactly. And things like lair actions and legendary actions, which are very similar to bonus actions in terms of sort of game design theme, being that they're that something extra. Mm-hmm. They're a better user experience for a DM than a bonus action is because they're so prominent in the stat block, and they are, as you say, expressing the narrative theme of this very special and often very scary monster.
Exactly.
I wanted to actually bring up another example or two of bonus action timing,
sure,
especially ones that spark debates online. One that has sparked a number of debates is the bonus action that's in the Shield Master feat. Mm. And here I'll test you about what is the timing of this bonus action. All right, it says, if you take the attack action on your turn, you can use a bonus action to try to shove a creature within 5 feet of you with your shield.
If you take
the attack action on your turn, you can use a bonus action to shove a creature within 5 feet of you with your shield.
I say you could do that anytime after you have taken the attack action.
Exactly. There have been a variety of arguments back and forth, unfortunately spurred by a somewhat clipped tweet I did several years ago.
Oh, no.
Yes. I read it afterward, and it's like, I don't even remember tweeting this. And so I've told people online,
Like,
that, disregard that tweet. I deleted it.
Did you like send it before you thought you were finished or something?
I
like that?
am not sure. There have been a few times where I've made the mistake of answering rules questions like in the line at Trader Joe's, and sometimes like if the teller is talking to me, or I'm getting text messages and I'm tweeting at rules, and sometimes that does not turn out well. So I've made a personal policy. I no longer do that because
I love that image of Jeremy Crawford, like like you press send in that line, and then a million D&D rules nerds cry it out in pain.
Yeah. The few times I have retracted one of my rulings on Twitter and said, whoa, ignore that old tweet. Yeah. I'll delete it. I think every single time it's been a circumstance like that. I was in in the line at a grocery store, or I might have been waiting for somebody at a bar and was even, partway through a drink. It's like, so now it's like I only answer rules questions if I'm at my desk at work, or I'm, quietly at home with my D&D books nearby.
That's amazing.
So I am in the right state of mind. So with Shieldmaster, to get back to it, yes, indeed, your answer was correct. You get an A on the test,
Woo,
Greg.
Nice.
The attack action has to happen on your turn before you can do this bonus action.
But you can move in between there, so that's important, right?
Absolutely, because this does not have that immediately after bit. It also doesn't specify that the creature you shove is even a creature you attacked with that attack action. So again, I bring that up to drive home for people. There's still a lot of flexibility in a bonus action that might have one of these preconditions, as this one does.
Yeah.
That you use your attack action attacking whomever or whatever, and then you can take this bonus action anytime thereafter on your turn against really a creature of your choice.
And that, like the feats are designed to do, it just gives more options to a melee combatant player, so that, it doesn't just feel like, all right, I can attack and then bash with a shield and then that's all I do. You're like, no, you can actually make a not necessarily cinematic, but like that idea of a tactical maneuver that a fighter or a melee combatant should really have.
Yeah.
To get that flavor out.
Now this option in particular, there are, I must say, a number of people really wishing that they could use this bonus action and then take their attack action, because if you do it that way, you essentially, if you knock the person prone, you then have advantage on all of your attack rolls against them if you're attacking within 5 feet. But that was not the intent of this feat. We very intentionally did not design it to work that way. Because otherwise we might as well have just said, and you have advantage on all your attack rolls, which was not the intent. This was, you whack somebody and then you decide to knock somebody else down, or the same person down who you were just attacking. And then if they don't get up on your subsequent turn, you can have advantage on your attack rolls against them. And even more importantly, your buddies are going to have advantage on their melee attack rolls against them, again, if those attacks are within 5 feet of the person. And in my Twitter talk about this feat in particular, I've loved to really drive home the fact that features like this Shieldmaster bonus action, but many others in the game as well, are not only there to be satisfying to the person who uses them, they're often there to also set up combos with your friends.
Right.
Because D&D at its heart is a co-op game, and there can be such an amazing satisfaction when different characters' abilities interlock and you really felt like you were working as a team. And that's an experience we strive for in our design. Mm-hmm. We not only want each person to feel like they have a moment in the spotlight, but we want the group to feel like it's in the spotlight, that, hey, we came together as this well-oiled machine and took down this fight. Sometimes a lot of the time a D&D group is not a well-oiled machine, but still manages to work together and pull something off spectacular.
Yeah. Well, what I like about this design differently than other editions was that when those type of push and pull type things would happen in the when you're dealing with a grid and things like that, and all of the bonus actions that happened in previous editions, so much of the conversation around thing would be like, well, if you do X, then I can do this, and there was this almost negotiation that happened between players, not characters, about how to best win the board game.
Right.
And I like this because it just means I can do this thing, and then if anybody can take advantage of that, and literally the mechanic is called advantage.
Right.
And I think it just makes it feel so much more streamlined, and the pace continues where it doesn't get bogged down in player to player negotiation.
And that is ever our goal.
Yeah.
To really make it easy for people to have a good time and to work together and to feel good about that collaboration at the table, whether it's the players collaborating in their tactical decision making, or it's the characters coming together in the story to pull off some great feat.
Yeah, and I love that if a player does this or their character does this, that there's an in-character statement or something that says, "I knocked him down. Now it's your time to do this." And keep that flowing. And again, this makes it feel like that's way more possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. All right. Any other timing examples that come up often?
A couple things I would bring up in closing is, and it's only loosely tied to timing, but sometimes people wonder, can they take a bonus action option as an action? Like, hey, I have this ability where it says I can do blah, blah, blah as a bonus action. Could I use my action to do that thing instead? Mm-hmm. The answer is no. We designed bonus actions to always just be bonus actions.
Huh.
They're not meant to, you're not meant to sort of have this currency, where you're swapping your actions around.
But honestly, how would that affect the rules if you were doing a bonus action as a regular action?
So in some cases, it won't affect the rules at all. The bonus actions where it would be safest for a DM to allow them to be used as an action are the ones that have no timing specified. Those, in 9 times out of 10, you're going to see no ripple effect in your game in terms of sort of negative play experience consequences. It's the bonus actions that have really specific timing often would not translate right into a full-fledged action because we wrote them as this little something extra riding on this other thing happening.
I see.
But the ones that, have no timing specified, most of the time if a DM says, yeah, fine, if you really, for whatever reason, want to cast Healing Word using your full action, knock yourself out.
I mean, I guess because then it just becomes semantics. Really,
Yeah.
It's like you're doing the thing as a bonus action, but it doesn't affect anything else in the combat rules, so it doesn't really matter. Maybe you can call it your standard action, but it really doesn't matter.
Right. And now one of the main reasons why I advise against doing that kind of swapping of taking one of your bonus actions but using your full action to do that bonus action thing, I recommend not doing it mostly because it could just slow the game down. Because if you suddenly start deconstructing the game in that way, where you're trying to kind of eke out every bit of tactical optimization, you really risk leaching out the narrative oomph at the table, where suddenly, instead of thinking about the awesome story that's unfolding, this, it might be this life or death battle you're having with a black dragon, if instead you're fretting about how to exchange one action, a bonus action for an action or vice versa, that could become very technical. And rather than it being a story, it's almost like you're no longer looking at this beautiful building. Instead, you're looking at scaffolding.
Yeah.
And that's also a thing we always want to avoid because we want the focus to be on the exciting story. And so for me, I often encourage people, just run it the way it's written, not again out of any anxiety that, oh my God, the game's going to break or you're quote unquote doing it wrong. Actually, it's because I want people to relax. It's like basically let the rules handle all the crunchy stuff and just get back to the story you're telling. Because I find that the more groups get caught up in the infrastructure, often the more the story starts fading into the distance.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of the game, it's like rather than having those great stories that so many of us have at the end of a session about the crazy thing that happened today in our game of D&D, instead it's like, well, what do we have? Well, we talked about the action economy. and
Right.
I enjoy that kind of conversation, but I'm a game designer and I'm also a big gaming nerd. But as much as I enjoy that kind of discussion, that's not why I sit down to play D&D.
It's a very different right brain, left brain type of satisfying thing that's happening when that occurs. So, I think that's good advice all around. And I am very happy to trust you and the rest of the wonderful designers who have put all the time and energy in testing this edition and making it sing the way it has. I want to concentrate on the story too. That makes good sense.
The one other bit, because I said there were two.
There were two.
Is object interactions. Sometimes people will mistake the free little object interaction you get on each of your turns for a bonus action. It is not. In the combat rules, we let you know that on your turn, you get this thing we call a free object interaction. And that can be drawing your sword, opening a door, swigging back some ale from a tankard that might be in your hand. Whatever it is, you can do it during your move or during your action. And I often, since I used to spend a lot of time, especially in my youth as an actor on stage, I think of that free object interaction as stage business.
Yeah.
You get on each of your little scenes, you get a little bit of free stage business. And then if you want to do more than one bit of stage business, you're going to have to spend your action on it, using usually the use an object action, which is also in the combat rules. But that little interaction should not be confused with the bonus action. It doesn't use your bonus action up. And also, sometimes I've seen people think that, well, we all have a bonus action to do that little bit of stage business. That's not actually the case. Rogues who have the thief subclass, they have that as an option, but other characters do not.
What about crying? Is that a free action?
I would let tears stream down your cheeks, not requiring any action at all.
Okay.
And I also would not have it consume your object interaction.
Excellent. All right. It is just part of the tapestry of your narrative.
Yeah. And I am, because I'm in a good mood today, I'm going to think it's because your character is crying tears of joy.
Exactly. I'm so happy that this black dragon is melting my face off.
Yeah, not because you're in horrible agony or just all your hopes have just shattered.
Yeah. We're, of course, talking about the black dragon because we have a WizKids black dragon plaque that we recently have in the office that looks amazing.
Yeah, so that just the presence of that plaque, I think, incepted me to be thinking of black dragons.
I immediately, when you said black dragon, I was like, the first image that popped in my head, and I hope a lot more people, are able to pick that up and do the same.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any way people can get in touch with you on Twitter to ask you more about bonus action timing?
I am at Jeremy E. Crawford on Twitter. And if I get back to you about bonus action timing, I promise not to do it in the line at Trader Joe's.
Excellent. And the E stands for action economy.
Wow. It, in fact, stands for Eric, my middle name.
I know, but we can change it. We can. Economy is where it's at. Thank you so much, as always, Jeremy, for coming in to chat about this stuff.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I love it. All right. Thanks, you guys. We'll be back next week with another segment. Bye.